There aren't too many constants in life, but one of them is change. This season, we're going to talk about change. Maybe it's a small change. Maybe it's a big change. Maybe it was unplanned, or maybe you've been planning it. Whatever that change may be, we're going to talk about steps. Maybe if you're stuck, how to get unstuck, or maybe if you've changed, how to stay on that path. This season is all going to be about change. Stick with us. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. I am your host, John Espinosa. I am your host, John Espinosa, to the Leaders Leading Leaders podcast. Hey everyone, John here. Welcome to the Leaders Leading Leaders podcast. We're kicking off another season. Woo! It is exciting when I get to do these openers because they're a preview to what is going to happen. And this season, it's change. Last 30 days. How many of you have gone, whether it's a big change, whether it's a small change, have gone through some type of change? I've experienced some change, not only in my personal life, but in my professional life. Had a employee of mine retire. It was a big change to the organization. Personally, had a couple travel scenarios. That was a change in environment. I had to learn how to adapt. So those are things that weren't necessarily milestones in my life, but they were changes. And many of you out there probably experienced those subtle changes either throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month, or maybe you're going through a life change. One of those big changes, those monumental, those pivotal moments in our lives where we look back and we say, you know what? That was for the good. That change, right, wrong, or indifferent, maybe it was planned, maybe it was unplanned. It happened, and it was for the good. Now, sometimes we may not see that. It may take many years for us to look back and say, I see what was going on there. That did work out to my best benefit. But maybe you've gone through a change and it's not going the way that you thought it was going to go. Maybe it was a planned change and the plans have fallen short. Maybe it's a change in a relationship. Maybe it's a change in your career. Maybe it's a change in homes. You've had to uproot your family and move, or uproot yourself and move to a different location, following a dream maybe, or maybe it was out of necessity. So whatever that change looks like, whatever your change looks like, I want to be very clear that even though we may not see it now, a lot of change that I have experienced personally in my life wasn't necessarily for the good. Some of it was deliberate, some of it happened that was out of my control. But as that change occurred and created a new version of me, I can look back and I can say, I'm doing a pretty good job. That's the message that I want you to walk away with at the end of this season. Because no matter how hard that change seems, sometimes there's always light at the end of the tunnel. And you're going to get through it. And we're going to talk about some ways, and I'm going to share some experiences, and we're going to interview some people that have gone through huge changes and have gone through micro changes. And they're going to share their stories about what that was like from their end. And then we might even do a book review on change management. A lot of what I do on my day-to-day and a lot of what I do through my coaching and mentoring is about change. Just think about that. Anytime you reach out to a mentor or a coach, what are you doing? First, you're evaluating. You got to create that awareness. I was aware that I needed to change. I wanted and I saw something bigger for myself and my family. And in order to get it, I had to make a change. There's change going on in our organizations that we may be leading. And it may start with you. It may start within, because you have to lead yourself before you can lead others. So maybe you are leading yourself through a change. And that change was created through awareness. And that's the first step or principle that we are going to talk about this season, is creating that awareness around the need to change, or creating the awareness around the fact that things are changing, whether you like them or not. The second piece that we find whenever we're going through some type of change is we're going to reach out for support. Find ways that support your change. Or if you're going through a difficult change, find support for yourself to talk through that. Either way you slice that cake, you have to find support. One of the things that turn up as a challenge when I talk to people is their environment. Is your environment conducive to change? If I am making a lifestyle change, maybe it's eating better diet, and my spouse, my significant others, my roommates, my family in the same household aren't going through that change, and maybe their diet isn't the best, but that food, that temptation is around, guess what? That isn't supporting your change. So one of two things can happen. Either you can go to them, explain that you're trying to make this lifestyle change and see if they will support you, or you're going to have to find support for yourself to say no to those late night snacks or get into that bag of chips, whatever your nemesis is, whatever, if you have a sweet tooth, or maybe you like bread and you're trying to cut back on bread, whatever that's going to be, you're going to have to find support for yourself. So support through others or support around the change that you're trying to make. The third one, we got to establish that baseline. So even before we can start to change, what does today look like? Day one, you've heard me refer to figure out what day one looks like, get into action. So again, establish that baseline. This is day one. Day one always isn't going to be pretty. Day one may be miserable. If you're going into a workout and you feel good and you maybe overdo it, guess what? Day two, you're going to be sore. Or maybe you're starting a new job. Maybe that's the big change, right? And you go into your new office and you're energized, you're pumped up, and the first person that you meet doesn't give you that quite warm welcome that you were expecting. And you're like, whoa. But you have to establish that baseline. What does day one look like? So that way you know that you're only moving forward. You put a stake in the sand, in the dirt, in the clay here in Oklahoma. And from this point, you are moving forward. So it's that baseline that's really going to build the foundation for change. Number 4, stay consistent. Put it into practice. Find ways to create habits. We don't have to have these monumental changes to create big impacts in our lives. Sometimes it's those little small micro changes that we make throughout the day. Getting up earlier. Maybe I want to get up at 6 a.m. so I can go work out, and now I'm getting up at 7. I always encourage people, do it 15 minutes at a time. Instead of waking up at 6 a.m., wake up at 6:45, and then 6:30, and then 6:15, and then 6 a.m. It's those small incremental changes that are going to add up to big things, but you have to start somewhere. You got to put it into practice. If you immediately take off more than you can chew, that's okay too. You've tried that out, right? You've created that baseline. You're like, whoa, I know I can't work out for 90 minutes. Let's try working out for 30 minutes. The main thing about this step, this principle, is you put it into practice and then you stay consistent. And then last but not least, number 5, we have to sustain it. We have to find ways to keep that drive, because after motivation runs out, which is around 13 days or so, you get fired up. Maybe you go to a conference or a weight loss seminar, or you hear a really good keynote and they're talking about change, and you're going to go back and you're going to start journaling, or you're going to start communicating better, whatever that looks like, that change looks like for you. Around 13 days, it's going to lose its shininess. So know that after that 2-week time frame, how are you going to stay consistent? What is going to drive you then? Is it your purpose? Is that what you're going to focus on? Are you going to have a visual reminder? We're going to talk about all of that in this season. So those 5 steps, there's 5 weeks. We're going to touch one each week. So make sure, 1, you're subscribed. You don't want to miss this season, I can promise you. And then give me a thumbs up when you hear something that you really like, or put a comment or put a question in the comments, and I'll be sure to answer that. Whether I respond back, or guess what? I like to keep these things timely. I'll just come on and answer it either in a Facebook Live, or I'll incorporate it into one of the podcast episodes. And if you continue to like what you hear, you're going to do me a big favor by sharing this. Share this with those that are close to you. Share this channel, share this podcast with the people that are close to you. I listen to a lot of podcasts and I will share them with people. I'll just shoot them a text and say, hey, listen to this and tell me what you think. You're going to be surprised on maybe what something will do. Just some words of inspiration, affirmation to somebody that may be going through a change and having a bad day. And it may spark that ambition. It may help them continue to get past that 2-week period when motivation starts to die off. You just never know. And that's our mission here in the Go Be Great community, is to help others get to where they're going. So make sure you don't miss any of the episodes this season, because we're going to dig into change and it's going to help you get to where you are going. Go be great. We'll talk to everyone later. Bye. If you like what you're hearing, do us a favor, click on that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, or leave a comment. That lets us know that what we are putting out benefits you. If you want additional information or resources, or learn how to work with me, head on over to thejohnespinosa.com, because when we become better versions of ourselves, it helps us get others to where they're going. Go be great. Talk to everyone later.